LeBron James discovers his childhood friend is homeless. Next day, he gets the shock of his life. Sometimes life's most extraordinary moments begin in the most ordinary places. For LeBron James, it was just another crisp autumn morning in Cleveland. The basketball superstar had returned to his hometown for a charity event, driving through familiar streets that had shaped his legendary journey from poverty to global icon. Little did he know that this routine visit would lead to an encounter that would shake him to his core. The sleek SUV rolled through downtown Cleveland, the city that had witnessed both his rise to fame and his most triumphant return. Though years had passed since he first left for Miami and then returned as a champion, LeBron still felt a deep connection to these streets. Every corner held memories, some triumphant, others painful. This was the city that had both celebrated and vilified him, the place where he had promised and delivered a championship against impossible odds. As the vehicle stopped at a red light near Public Square, LeBron gazed out the window, his mind preoccupied with the speech he would deliver later that day. The charity foundation he had built was preparing to announce a new initiative to support underprivileged youth in the city, another step in his mission to give back to the community that raised him. That's when he saw him. A man huddled against the cold on a bench, wearing layers of tattered clothing, his possessions tucked into a weathered backpack beside him. Something about the man's profile caught LeBron's attention. A familiar slope to the shoulders, a certain way he held his head, even in defeat. There was something hauntingly familiar about this stranger that LeBron couldn't ignore. "Pull over," he instructed his driver, his voice suddenly urgent. The driver glanced back, concerned. "Here, sir. We're running late for the event." "Just for a minute," LeBron insisted, already reaching for the door handle. As LeBron approached the bench, the homeless man kept his gaze fixed on the ground, used to being invisible to passers-by. Only when LeBron's shadow fell across him did he look up, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Marcus!" LeBron's voice carried across the years that separated them, years that had taken them down dramatically different paths. The man's weathered face, transformed with recognition, then immediately clouded with shame. "LeBron? Man, don't look at me like this." He attempted to turn away, to hide his face, but it was too late. Marcus Williams. The name echoed in LeBron's mind, unleashing a flood of memories. They had shared a court, shared dreams, shared a brotherhood in the neighborhoods of Akron. Marcus had been the first person to tell 12-year-old LeBron that he had what it took to make it to the NBA. They had promised each other they'd both make it out, both defy the statistics that claimed boys from their neighborhood rarely escaped its gravitational pull. What happened?" LeBron managed to ask, still processing the shock of finding his childhood friend living on the streets. Marcus shook his head, his eyes downcast. "Life happened, man. One bad break after another." In that moment, standing on a Cleveland street corner, the gap between their lives seemed impossible to comprehend. LeBron, whose face adorned billboards around the world, whose name was synonymous with success, and Marcus, invisible to the very city they both once called home. "When was the last time you ate something?" LeBron asked, already reaching for his wallet. Marcus shrugged. "Yesterday, maybe. The days kind of blur together after a while." Without hesitation, LeBron extended his hand. "Come with me, right now." Marcus hesitated, pride warring with necessity. "I don't need charity, LeBron, especially not from you." "This isn't charity," LeBron replied firmly. "This is what you do for family." The word hung between them, family. Before LeBron was King James, before the championships and the endorsements, before he became a global icon, he and Marcus had been family in all the ways that mattered. They had shared meals when food was scarce, protected each other when the streets grew dangerous, pushed each other to be better on and off the court. Reluctantly, Marcus took LeBron's offered hand and stood, his legs stiff from the cold and from sitting too long. As they walked toward the waiting SUV, LeBron fought to hide his shock at how thin his friend had become, how the years had carved deep lines into a face that once radiated confidence and mischief. In the warmth of the vehicle, Marcus sat uncomfortably, acutely aware of how out of place he was in this world of luxury. LeBron made a quick call, rescheduling his appearance at the charity event. Some things were more important than keeping to a schedule, and this was one of them. "I'm taking you to get something to eat," LeBron said, "and then we're going to talk. Really talk." Over plates of food at a small diner where LeBron knew they wouldn't be disturbed, Marcus slowly began to share his story. The basketball scholarship that had ended with a devastating knee injury, the deaths of his mother and grandmother within months of each other, the spiral into depression, then addiction, then homelessness, the too familiar path that claimed so many talented young men from their neighborhood. "I tried to find you a few times," Marcus admitted, "but then I'd see you on TV, living this whole other life, and I'd feel ashamed. I didn't want you to see what I'd become." LeBron listened, his heart heavy with a complex mix of emotions: guilt for not staying connected, gratitude for the mentors and opportunities that had helped him avoid a similar fate, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility that had defined his approach to success from the beginning. "Where are you staying tonight?" LeBron finally asked. Marcus gave a hollow laugh. "Where I stay every night, wherever I can find that's safe and warm enough." Without hesitation, LeBron made another call. By the time they finished their meal, arrangements had been made. A hotel room was waiting. Not charity, LeBron insisted again, but a starting point. A place where Marcus could shower, sleep in a real bed, and begin to reclaim his dignity. As they parted ways that evening, LeBron pressed a card into Marcus's hand. "Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, I'll have someone pick you up." Marcus stared at the card, then back at his childhood friend. "Why are you doing this? You don't owe me anything." LeBron's answer was simple but profound. "Because someone once told me I could make it to the NBA when I was just a skinny kid from Akron with nothing but dreams. That someone was you, Marcus, and I never forgot it." As LeBron drove away, his mind was already racing with plans. This chance encounter wasn't just about helping an old friend. It was about confronting the brutal reality that for every success story like his own, countless others from his community had been left behind. Marcus could have been him, in another version of life where the breaks didn't go his way. What LeBron didn't know yet was that this reunion would change not just Marcus's life, but his own as well. The journey they were about to embark on together would remind him of where he came from, what truly mattered, and the power that comes from remembering that no one succeeds alone. And for Marcus, tomorrow would bring a shock that would change the trajectory of his life forever. As dawn broke over Cleveland the next morning, Marcus stood outside the hotel, clean-shaven and wearing the new clothes LeBron had sent over. The transformation was striking. Beneath the grime and exhaustion had emerged glimpses of the confident young man LeBron once knew. Still, Marcus shifted nervously from foot to foot, fighting the instinct to walk away to, disappear back into the invisible existence he'd grown accustomed to. Part of him couldn't help but wonder if LeBron's kindness was merely a fleeting gesture, a momentary salve for celebrity guilt before returning to his world of privilege and acclaim. At precisely 9 o'clock, a sleek black car pulled up. The driver stepped out, nodding respectfully. "Mr. Williams, I'm here to take you to Mr. James." The drive took them away from downtown Cleveland, winding through increasingly affluent neighborhoods until they reached a modern office building with tinted windows. Marcus was escorted inside, through a reception area where staff members greeted him with unexpected warmth, and into a conference room where LeBron waited, surrounded by a small team of professionals. "There he is," LeBron stood, embracing Marcus with genuine affection. "Did you get some rest?" Marcus nodded, overwhelmed by the surreal situation. "More than I've had in years." LeBron gestured to the others in the room. "Marcus, these are some key people from my foundation. We've been talking about you." For the next hour, LeBron and his team outlined a proposition that left Marcus speechless. It wasn't charity. It was an opportunity. A position with the LeBron James Family Foundation, working directly with at-risk youth from neighborhoods like the one they had grown up in. Who better to connect with these kids, LeBron explained, than someone who understood their struggles intimately. "You always had a way with the younger kids on the playground," LeBron reminded him. "You knew how to talk to them, how to make them believe in themselves." Marcus stared at the contract before him, his vision blurring with unexpected tears. "Why would you trust me with this? After everything I've been through, the addiction, the homelessness. Because of everything you've been through, LeBron replied firmly. Your story isn't a liability, Marcus. It's your greatest asset. These kids need to see that failure isn't final, that second chances exist, that someone understands them without judgment. The proposal included not just employment, but comprehensive support, temporary housing, healthcare that included addiction counseling, and a mentor program that would help Marcus transition back into stable life. It wasn't a handout, it was a hand up, designed with both compassion and accountability. I don't know what to say, Marcus finally managed, his voice thick with emotion. Say yes, LeBron answered simply. Not for me, for yourself, and for those kids who need someone like you. After the meeting, LeBron took Marcus to visit one of the foundation's youth centers. As they walked through the facility, filled with children from their old neighborhood, Marcus began to see the vision LeBron had created. A comprehensive approach to breaking cycles of poverty through education, mentorship, and opportunity. This could have been us, Marcus murmured, watching a group of boys on the basketball court, their movements filled with the same desperate hunger for escape that had driven them decades ago. It was us, LeBron corrected him. That's why this matters so much. As they observed a classroom session, one of the instructors approached, her face lighting up with recognition. Marcus Williams? From Bucktel High? I don't believe it. Tamika Johnson had been 2 years behind them in school, now an educator dedicated to the same communities they'd grown up in. The warmth of her greeting, the lack of judgment in her eyes, helped Marcus begin to shed some of his shame. Perhaps his past didn't have to define his future after all. Later that afternoon, LeBron drove Marcus to see something else, a small, dignified apartment not far from the Foundation's headquarters. This is yours, LeBron said, handing over a key, for as long as you need it. First and last month's rent is covered. After that, you'll be earning your own way. Marcus walked through the modest space, clean, furnished, safe. A far cry from the shelters and streets that had been his reality for years. The enormity of what was happening hit him all at once, and he sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. I don't deserve this, he whispered. LeBron sat beside him. None of us get exactly what we deserve in this life, good or bad. I didn't deserve to become who I am any more than you deserved what happened to you. But we both deserve the chance to make something meaningful out of whatever hand we're dealt. As evening approached, they shared a meal, reminiscing about their childhood, the good and the bad. The conversation flowed more easily now, the years between them dissolving, as they remembered shared triumphs and struggles. Remember Coach Wilkins? Marcus laughed. How he used to make us run suicides until we couldn't feel our legs? LeBron grinned. And you'd always try to cheat on the last one. Only because you always looked like you could go another 10 rounds. Some things never change. But something had shifted within him since finding Marcus. The carefully constructed narrative of his life, the kid from Akron who defied the odds through talent and determination, suddenly felt incomplete. Yes, he had worked relentlessly for his success. Yes, his natural gifts had been honed through thousands of hours of practice. But looking at Marcus, he was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. The line between making it and not making it was thinner than anyone wanted to admit. I want to talk about Marcus in the interview, LeBron told his publicist, who had just joined him via video call. She hesitated. Are you sure that's the direction you want to go? We've always kept your charitable work somewhat separate from your personal story. This is different, LeBron insisted. This isn't just about charity. It's about acknowledging how random success can be, about recognizing that talent and hard work aren't always enough without opportunity and support. By midday, Marcus had ventured out to explore the neighborhood around his new apartment. The ordinary actions of daily life, buying groceries, nodding to neighbors, planning meals, felt foreign after years of moment-to-moment survival. At a small community center, he paused, watching children play basketball on an outdoor court. Their movements, their trash talk, their desperate desire to prove themselves, it all echoed across the decades to his own childhood. You play? A young boy had approached, basketball tucked under his arm, eyes evaluating Marcus with the frank curiosity of youth. Used to, Marcus replied, a long time ago. You any good? Marcus smiled. I was. Good enough to play with LeBron James back in the day. The boy's eyes widened. For real? You knew LeBron? We grew up together in Akron, played on the same courts, dreamed the same dreams. For the next hour, Marcus found himself coaching the boy and his friends, muscle memory returning as he demonstrated proper shooting form, defensive stance, the footwork that had once made him a prospect with potential. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his past lift slightly, replaced by something that felt dangerously like purpose. Meanwhile, LeBron sat across from the network interviewer, cameras rolling as they discussed his career achievements and future plans. Then, as planned, the conversation shifted. There's been a lot of talk about your foundation's work, especially the I Promise School, the interviewer noted. But I understand there's a new initiative you're particularly passionate about. LeBron leaned forward. I recently reconnected with someone from my past, a childhood friend named Marcus Williams. We grew up together, played basketball together. He was actually the first person who ever told me I could make it to the NBA. And what happened to him? Life happened. Injuries, personal losses, struggles with addiction, the same challenges that many people from our neighborhood face. The difference is, I had a support system at critical moments. I had people who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Marcus didn't have that safety net when he needed it most. The interviewer's expression softened. And where is he now? Yesterday, he was homeless on the streets of Cleveland. Today, he's part of our foundation team, bringing his lived experience to our work with at-risk youth. His story illustrates something I've always known, but haven't articulated enough, that the line between success and struggle is razor thin and often determined by factors beyond our control. As LeBron continued, sharing details of Marcus's journey and their renewed connection, the interview transformed from a standard sports profile into something more profound, a meditation on luck, privilege, responsibility, and the arbitrary nature of success. Back at the community center, Marcus was preparing to leave when his phone rang, the foundation offices calling with unexpected news. Marcus, have you seen the interview? The excitement in the coordinator's voice was palpable. LeBron just told your story on national television. He announced a new initiative, the Second Chance program, inspired by reconnecting with you. Our phones are ringing off the hook with donations and support offers. Marcus stood frozen, trying to process this information. He did what? The interview is everywhere. Social media is exploding. People are already asking how they can help, how they can get involved. This is bigger than we anticipated, Marcus. Much bigger. By the time Marcus returned to his apartment, his phone was flooded with messages, old friends who had seen the interview, community organizations offering partnerships, even former teammates reaching out after years of silence. The story had struck a chord, touching something deep in the public consciousness, a recognition that success stories were often celebrated without acknowledging how easily they could have gone another way. That evening, as promised, LeBron arrived at Marcus's apartment. The two men sat across from each other, the weight of the day's events hanging between them. You should have warned me, Marcus said finally, his voice carrying no accusation, only wonder. Would you have agreed if I had? LeBron countered. Marcus considered this. Probably not. I'm still struggling to believe any of this is real. It's real, LeBron assured him, and it's just the beginning. The Foundation's board has unanimously approved funding for the Second Chance program. We're talking housing support, job training, addiction services, mental health resources, a comprehensive approach for people who've fallen through the cracks. And they want me to help run it? Someone who was homeless literally 2 days ago? LeBron nodded. Who better? You understand the challenges, the barriers, the shame that keeps people from seeking help. Your perspective is invaluable. As night fell over Cleveland, the two friends talked late into the evening, mapping out possibilities, sharing ideas, building on the foundation of trust they had established in childhood and somehow maintained across decades of separation. For LeBron, it was a reminder of why his success mattered, not for the accolades or wealth, but for the platform it provided to create meaningful change. For Marcus, it was the dawning realization that his struggles hadn't been meaningless, that they had equipped him with insights and empathy that could now become his greatest strength. Neither man could have imagined that their chance encounter would catalyze a movement that would spread far beyond Cleveland, touching lives across the country. But as they parted ways that night, both sensed that something significant had begun, a ripple that would grow into a wave, challenging perceptions about success, failure, and the responsibility we bear to one another. 3 months had passed since that fateful day when LeBron spotted Marcus on a Cleveland street corner. What had begun as a personal reconnection had evolved into something neither man could have predicted, a nationwide conversation about second chances, privilege, and community responsibility. The Second Chance program had grown exponentially, expanding from Cleveland to LeBron's hometown of Akron, then to other cities where his foundation had established relationships. Today, Marcus stood before a crowd gathered for the official opening of the program's first dedicated center, a renovated building in one of Cleveland's most challenged neighborhoods. Once an abandoned warehouse, it now housed transitional housing units, counseling offices, job training facilities, and a community space designed to restore dignity to those who had lost everything except hope. "I never planned to be standing here," Marcus began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. 3 months ago, I was invisible, just another homeless man trying to survive another day. Most people walked past me without a second glance. I had resigned myself to that reality. The audience listened intently. Community leaders, foundation partners, program participants, and media representatives drawn by the powerful narrative of friendship and redemption that had captivated the public imagination. Then someone saw me, really saw me, not just as a homeless person, but as Marcus Williams, as someone with value, with potential, with a story that wasn't finished yet. Marcus paused, glancing toward LeBron, who sat in the front row, deliberately allowing his friend to take center stage. That recognition, being truly seen, was the first step toward reclaiming my life. As Marcus continued his speech, detailing the program's comprehensive approach to addressing homelessness as a complex social issue rather than a personal failing, LeBron reflected on the unexpected journey of the past 3 months. What had begun as a private act of friendship had sparked something much larger. The interview where he'd shared Marcus's story had gone viral, generating not just donations, but a deeper examination of the narrative society constructed around success and failure. Other celebrities and athletes had been inspired to share similar stories of childhood friends or family members who hadn't received the breaks they had. The conversation had shifted from celebrating exceptional success stories to recognizing the systems and supports required to make those successes possible, and the responsibility of those who had succeeded to ensure others had similar opportunities. For Marcus, the transformation had been both professional and personal. The man who now confidently addressed a crowd of hundreds bore little resemblance to the broken individual LeBron had found on that street corner. Sobriety, purpose, community, these foundations had allowed the natural leadership abilities that had always been present in Marcus to reemerge and flourish. "This center represents more than just services," Marcus continued. "It represents a belief that everyone deserves the chance to rewrite their story, that past mistakes don't define future possibilities, that community means no one gets left behind." Following the ceremony, as attendees toured the new facility, a young woman approached Marcus, her eyes reflecting a familiar mix of desperation and determination. "My brother's been living on the streets for 2 years, she explained, her voice catching. "I've tried everything to help him, but he's given up. Seeing you up there, hearing your story, it gave me hope for the first time in a long time." Marcus listened intently, then connected her with the program's intake coordinator. This was the real work, not the speeches or media attention, but the individual connections, the renewed hope, the practical pathways toward stability that the program provided. Later that evening, LeBron and Marcus sat in the empty community room of the new center, the day's excitement giving way to quiet reflection. "Did you ever imagine this?" Marcus asked, gesturing around the space that represented so much more than just a building. LeBron shook his head. "Not like this. I knew I wanted to help you, but I never anticipated how your story would resonate with so many people." "Sometimes I still wake up expecting to find myself back on that bench," Marcus admitted. "It doesn't seem possible that life can change so completely in such a short time." LeBron nodded, understanding the disbelief. "I felt the same way when I first made it to the NBA. like I was living someone else's life, waiting for someone to tell me there had been a mistake. The parallels between their experiences, one defined by extraordinary success, the other by extraordinary hardship, highlighted the common humanity that had become the foundation of their renewed friendship. Both had been shaped by circumstances largely beyond their control, both had been transformed by the recognition of their inherent worth, and both now understood the responsibility that came with their respective journeys. As they talked, LeBron shared news that he had been hesitant to mention during the day's celebrations. The program had attracted the attention of federal policymakers interested in scaling its approach nationally. There were discussions of congressional hearings, potential legislation, opportunities to influence how society addressed homelessness, and second chances on a systemic level. They want you to testify, LeBron explained, to share your story, to help them understand what works and what doesn't, from someone who's lived it. Marcus absorbed this information silently, the weight of its implications settling on his shoulders. From invisible to influential in the span of 3 months, the trajectory seemed impossible, yet here he was. "Do you think I'm ready for that?" he finally asked. "I know you are," LeBron replied without hesitation. "Your voice matters, Marcus. Not just for your own story, but for everyone still waiting to be seen." The next morning, as Marcus arrived at the center for his first full day of operations, he was greeted by a sight that stopped him in his tracks. A line had formed outside the building, people of all ages, backgrounds, and circumstances, drawn by the promise of dignity and possibility that the center represented. Some were clearly experiencing homelessness themselves. Others appeared to be family members seeking help for loved ones. Still others wore the expressions of those who had found stability but wanted to give back. Among them, Marcus recognized faces from his own time on the streets, individuals he had shared shelters with, stood in food lines beside, warned about dangerous areas to avoid at night. They regarded him with a complex mix of emotions: hope, skepticism, pride, and the unspoken question: if Marcus could rebuild his life, could they? As the doors opened and people began to enter, Marcus moved through the crowd, greeting each person not as a client or a case, but as an individual with inherent worth and potential. This, he realized, was the true gift LeBron had given him. Not the job or the apartment or the platform, but the reminder of his own humanity and the opportunity to extend that recognition to others. Across town, LeBron was meeting with his foundation team, reviewing expansion plans, and addressing the logistics of scaling the program responsibly. The media attention had been both blessing and challenge, bringing necessary resources, but also creating pressure to grow quickly without compromising the program's integrity or personalized approach. "Marcus called this morning," one team member reported. "The center is at capacity already. Word has spread faster than we anticipated." LeBron nodded, unsurprised. "We'll need to accelerate our timeline for the second location and connect with other cities where we've had preliminary discussions." As the meeting continued, LeBron's phone lit up with a notification, a photo Marcus had sent from the center. It showed a group gathered in the community space, faces reflecting cautious hope as they engaged in the program's first official session. The caption read, "From one man being seen to a community seeing each other. Thank you for looking twice that day." The journey that had begun 3 months ago with a chance encounter had become something neither man could have imagined, a movement built on the simple yet profound act of truly seeing one another. For LeBron, it had transformed how he understood his own success and responsibility. For Marcus, it had offered not just personal redemption, but the opportunity to become a bridge for others still waiting for their moment of recognition. And for countless individuals previously consigned to society's margins, it had created something even more precious than services or support: the promise that their stories, like Marcus's, were not yet finished. That second chances weren't just possible, but deserved. That being seen was the first step toward becoming whole again. If this incredible story of friendship, second chances, and the power of being truly seen touched your heart, don't let the impact end here. Take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another story of extraordinary human connection. Remember, sometimes the most meaningful changes in our lives come from someone simply taking the time to see us for who we truly are. Has someone ever changed your life with a single act of kindness? Or have you been that person for someone else? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. This reunion between LeBron and Marcus shows us that no matter how different our paths may seem, we're all connected by our shared humanity. Sometimes, all it takes is one person believing in us to completely transform our lives. If you know someone struggling with homelessness or fighting for a second chance, please share this video with them. And remember, you don't have to be a celebrity to make a difference. Sometimes all it takes is the courage to look twice, to see the person behind the circumstances. Thank you for watching, and remember, everyone deserves to be seen.